What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And this I want to talk about what's going on with the overall market and break down some very important levels. I'm also going to talk about next week because we have a very big week ahead of us. We have Jerome Powell giving a speech, some very important data coming out every other day, and also some very important things going on in the charts that could lead to new moves. Before I break down all this information, before I talk about why on Earth next week is going to be important and how a couple of these tickers are looking, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire community as a whole. So, anyways, guys, thank you all so much for the very kind words about Thanksgiving. It really touched me. I really appreciate everyone, by the way. But I want to talk about the market now and then break down how things went for today. As I told you guys in the morning, expect a very boring day. Don't expect too much from the markets. If you look at SPY, this thing was flat like a pancake. It was flat like Kansas, going back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and back and forth and just barcoding all day, pretty much doing nothing. Very, very boring day to be trading in. That's why I didn't really watch the charts today. I just stepped away after the first hour and a half. And it was very, very boring. There just wasn't really much that happened. But the question now remains: what's going to happen moving forward? What do I think the market's going to do? The answer is: firstly, we have to look at some important data, and then we have to look at the charts because there is something very interesting brewing. So for the data, as a reminder, PMI came out today as expected, very close to expectations. I was talking with many of my friends about this, and this is suggesting that we could still see an expansion of our next GDP numbers. Not a guarantee, though. And thus far, the data has been quite decent. So we're still getting decent data. The market's still holding up. Going into Monday, however, we have new home sales and a couple of other pieces of data like the Dallas Fed Manufacturing Index. Nothing too big for Monday. Tuesday is when we have more Fed speakers basically approaching the Jerome Powell speech, but nothing else too crazy for that. Some consumer confidence data. But starting on Wednesday is when things are going to get more intense. So on Wednesday, we have the GDP numbers coming out. That's going to be very important. These numbers are going to be, once again, important for determining if we're getting closer to a recession, how the current state of the economy is. And this is very important for economists and traders and investors all over the world. So we're going to be watching these GDP numbers and then looking at the pre-PCE expectations. For Thursday, it's going to be another big day because we have the PCE data coming out. This is another inflationary measure used by the Fed. Once again, this is similar to CPI, except it's more looked at by the Fed. With PCE coming out, we'll be watching to see what moves that causes for the markets. And Friday is going to be a big day because we have some manufacturing data. Then we have Jerome Powell giving a speech. So Wednesday, Thursday, Friday are going to be intense days. Lots of data coming out with Powell giving a speech on Friday. And then besides that, Monday and Tuesday are not going to be as crazy. So we'll be watching the charts and other indicators more carefully. For earnings, I just want to remind you guys, there's not really a whole lot going on. For Monday, Tuesday, there's not really too much. We have like Intuit, just a few others, but we have Dell and Big Lots for Thursday. So I think Thursday is going to be the biggest earnings day. We'll watch and see what happens with Dell. Big Lots is going to be big for retail. And we have like TD Bank as well. But that's pretty much it. Nothing else too crazy. Kind of a quiet week to start us off, and things would become much more intense Wednesday through Friday. Now let's talk about some charts. How are things looking in my opinion? There's a very simple way to look at this. As of right now, okay, from a technical standpoint, SPY is making higher highs and higher lows. At least it's been on this like big uptrend. And there's no sign that this uptrend has broken yet. We're not downtrending yet. So in the present time, the market is still uptrending, but for the future, the signals are suggesting there's going to be a risk of downside. So that's like the most simple way for me to break it down. If you look at the 4-hour time frame on SPY, all right, it's continuing to uptrend. We're respecting this rising wedge over and over again. There's no break of the wedge just yet. We're continuing to uptrend, and we're going to be watching to see if we get one more bounce to push up. Where this red highlighted supply zone is that I have, this is actually where the July high happens to be. There's always the possibility we push a little bit more before we get some kind of rejection, but I just want to call out that I can't turn bearish, like super, super bearish until we get confirmation of a break from this rising wedge. But I believe there's a risk of the downside coming in the future. And here's exactly why. So right now, yes, the market's holding up, but later on, maybe it's like next week, maybe going into Tuesday, Wednesday, who knows? next week sometime, possibly, there's going to be some possible downside if some of these signals play out, because the first thing is we have this triple, almost quadruple bearish divergence on SPY that is still playing out. It's still developing, and there's a very, very good chance it will play out as we've been pumping like crazy. I also want to call out to the fact that the market's been pumping to some extremes. If you look at the daily RSI, this actually is at 72. And generally, when the daily RSI hits these high levels, such as like 72 to 76, when it becomes overbought, we tend to see the market top. On top of that, many of the indicators are becoming extremely greedy. I was showing you guys that last week. The fear and greed index has been like, it's getting very close to extremes and etc. That's another factor that's worth noting. Excuse me, sorry guys. And then on top of that, I just want to call out that I want to call out the fact that the market's just in this like very overbought state. And then when you look at it, you have to consider the fact that when looking at our different indicators, such as like our Bollinger Bands, I think I accidentally deleted mine, but the Bollinger Bands are basically suggesting that this thing is at a very, very overbought state, as we're once again getting very close to this upper Bollinger Band on the 4-hour time frame. On the daily chart, that's where things become more serious. The daily upper Bollinger Band has expanded, so we're actually technically not there anymore, but we were close to it at one point, and we're still approaching this resistance right here. So the Bollinger Band does not suggest that we have to like reject from here very hard anymore. This has actually changed, but we're approaching some tight resistance, and you just want to be careful anyways. Now, to add on to this, generally the market does slow down approaching like the end of November before we get another rally for December. I would like to see that, as we have a lot of these gaps that are unfilled with the bearish divergences. But I want to call out something else that's very interesting about this level. So I don't know if the top is in for SPY, but there's always a possibility that it is in, right? If the top is in for SPY, what I will call out is that we're at a very, very critical state, because if I bring out the 4-hour time frame, there's something very interesting on this chart. If you look at SPY like this, and we look at where this thing could retrace to, we have something very interesting. So I think I have to start from right here. There's actually a confluence of support that has developed looking at the current level we have pumped to. So if we start like down here, go all the way back up towards like this top right here, what you'll see is that, the first thing you'll know is that the 0.618 retracement happens to be at 442, and then like 444 is the 0.5 retracement. But if we assume that we're going to start from like this low right here, we kind of change this just a little bit. So I'm going to like adjust this a bit. What you'll find is that the 0.618 retracements is very close to like 446, and a golden pocket happens to align with that 444 level. So that's an area of interest because of where this imbalance was in this previous resistance. So what this suggests is we need to see SPY break this support. We need to see like a bearish move and a change in market structure for me to turn bearish, right? So with that in mind, if we get some kind of break to the downside, okay, if this actually breaks down finally, which could happen as soon as next week, you're going to be watching SPY try to hold support at 452. We need to hold this. If we lose this, if we lose 452, we're going to come back down here towards 450.5, which is where we have this imbalance. And if that fails us, it's going to be coming all the way down to 448, because if you look at SPY on the daily chart right here, 448 right over here is where we had this historical support. We have support at 448. And then the next level is going to be like this 446 area, which is a level I called out on our fib retracement area. And then besides that, it's just 444. That's going to be the last level of support for SPY we have to hold. If we lose 444, we're going to fill the gap all the way down, most likely down to like 440. But I don't expect SPY to crash that hard. I think the retracement is going to be very minor. Maybe it could drop 10 points, maybe 15 points, and that's it. And I think this thing is going to be due for more upside anyways to end the year. One of the things I called out was the fact that we have an election year, and historically during these elections, the market has a tendency of remaining bullish to end the year, and I think that that's what's going to happen. Now, before we squeeze to end the year, there is a risk of some downside. We also have a potential like topping candlestick from this was like on Wednesday, so we'll be watching all of this very carefully. But with that being said, guys, I mean, we have this confluence of support, we have a rising wedge, a triple bearish divergence, which could develop into a quadruple one if we get one more pump, which all suggests that the market has risk of downside in the future. However, do not turn into a mega bear just yet, right? You couldn't just randomly start shorting for no reason. You need some rationalization behind that. The fact that the market's overbought could be a reason, but there's no confirmation of a breakdown yet. We're going to be watching for that next week with all the data coming out because we want to be watching this support break first. We want to see if we could break this support. Does SPY lose this wedge? And then finally, if we do get the break, can we hold 452? Because if we lose that, that's when we're officially going to start like reversing. We want to watch something like this, for example. So if we get this like break to the downside, do we come down here, kind of like form an inverse, not an inverse, a head and shoulders like structure, and we just like come back down, and we get like a small retracement for like a week to week and a half. Who knows? I don't know how big it's going to be, but this is just like a hypothetical example. You want to see something like that off the back test, and then whether we get some kind of like end of the year rally will depend on that. But basically, don't worry about the market like sinking yet or like rallying just yet. Watch this area. This is going to be the main thing right here. Do we get some kind of breakdown in like a back test before we continue lower, or are we going to just like break from here? All right, so we'll be watching that next week. There's not really a whole lot else for me to say. I will be talking more slowly about other tickers like Tesla and Nvidia for my video for tomorrow. I just want to keep the videos very short, very simple for the weekend. I know a lot of people are going to be shopping, so stay safe in your shopping. Take care, guys, and I will basically just try to cut the video from here. I'll be talking more in a very simple video tomorrow, and then I'll be back for Sunday for a more in-depth video about what could happen for Monday. So the market's going to be back to normal starting Monday, but until then, thank you all so much for listening. Enjoy your Black Friday shopping. I hope you guys enjoy the Thanksgiving weekend, the holiday, and once again, I will see you guys very, very soon. All right, guys, so have a great day. Remain calm, cool, and collected, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Thank you, and peace out.